Good morning. This is Bill from Europa, Naples on a lovely Monday, Naples Monday. Actually, it isn't lovely. It's really irritating day already, and it's not even 8 o'clock yet. Our mechanic called in sick, which is great because I have a string of cars that I need for him to do. Our detailer's already pissed me off from crappy details that he did on Friday. And the drive into work was loaded with so many aggressive nitwits that it made me wish to have a pretty large machine gun in the car to take some of them out. Not that I don't want to kill anybody, but certainly it would be fun to sweep their tires and send them off into the ditch. But I don't know what it is with aggressive driving. I feel like it's gotten much, much worse in my lifetime. It used to be just me driving aggressively, which was great. I could weave in and out of everybody. But now when 40% of the drivers are doing it, it becomes more of a circus. But anyway, I digress. What I have today is this 2007 Cadillac XLR Roadster. It's designed using Cadillac's art and science design philosophy, which frankly to me is kind of a dumb name. It sounds like something a fourth grader would use on his way off to elementary school. But anyway, it works. It's modeled after the Stealth Fighter. More correctly, the 1999 Evoque concept car was modeled after the Stealth Fighter, and this car was modeled on that. It's not Cadillac's first foray into the Roadster. If you remember, in the late 1980s, they came out with a pretty interesting piece called the Alante. And by, pretty interesting, I mean horrifically crappy. I'm one of the few guys probably out there who loves the Alante, just probably because it was my point in time. It was there for me and it was interesting. But when some genius at Cadillac said, hey, I have an idea, let's build a Roadster on a front drive platform. We're going to, have it designed by Pininfarina. We're going to put it on a 747, fly it to Italy, have them finish it at Gargiulo or wherever the hell it was, send it back so we can finish it some more here on another 747, and then we'll make money on the whole thing. So that worked out really as you could predict, and they lost, I want to say, $1 billion or more on what was truly a pretty crappy Roadster, even if I think it looked pretty good. Not the same story here. This car was done much, much more intelligently. For instance, as most people will know who know the XLR, it is Corvette based and came off the same assembly line as the Corvette in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That was a big step forward, it was a big advantage when building a Roadster that General Motors had that platform handy, because instantly the car was graced with some pretty incredible lineage. So what that means is it's got double wishbones at the four corners. It's got hydroformed side rails. It's got similar but slightly different front and rear aluminum subframes. What they did, even though the car is a little bit shorter than the Corvette, it does have a longer wheelbase. In the rear they pushed it back a little bit to accommodate the transaxle, and in the front they pushed it forward a little bit to accommodate the North Star V8, which is now running north-south instead of east-west. And altogether it worked. There's some haters out there always is, who say, oh, if you want to go fast, why is this thing more money than the Corvette and doesn't go as fast? Well, that's not the point of the car. I mean, General Motors already had the Corvette. They really don't need two Corvettes. This thing was built to be a luxury car with a performance edge to it, and I do think they pulled that off. It's a car that you can get in and out of relatively simply. It looks rakish. It handles very, very well, and is a terrific boulevard cruiser, while at the same time not being a dog on the curvy roads. And I think they hit that mark just fine. It doesn't have to be a track hero, to be, what it's supposed to be. You can see those four big pipes at the back. Love them. All the angular designs, the way the third brake light becomes sort of a crease spoiler in the middle of the trunk, the weird cocked-looking taillights, which somehow managed to work. I do like those 18-inch polished alloys on it. They look maybe a little bit spindly, but they work on the car. You can see the design is just, to me, very, very attractive, very much a departure from the rest of the crowd out there. And the car was designed to compete with cars like that one, that 04 SL 500. And when it came out in '04, this car was quicker. It had more horsepower and was a true competitor. Then, the SL added a bit more juice under the hood, and that made it maybe a little bit quicker than the XLR. But by that point, you could get into the XLR-V with the supercharger, and everyone was going to be chipper. And there is Marty going to work with his cast on, a winged bird. How sad to see, but somehow he's keeping it all together. Anyway, I go on and on and on and on. Egg-shaped grille up front. You see those two big rectangles next to the fog lamps? That's part of the radar-based cruise control that came standard on this car. That keeps the distance between you and the car in front of you on the highway. If only all the aggressive nitwits could utilize such a system. I do love the big rectangular fog lights. I think they look nice and sporty. You see those big xenon headlamp assemblies there, kind of, molded into the weirdly shaped front fenders. The car is all fiberglass on the outside, just like a Corvette, which you would expect, although they do use a thicker fiberglass that keeps the car a bit more solid. Also has an aluminum windshield frame, magnesium steering column mount, and all the other stuff you would recognize from the Corvette of the same vintage. All right, let's just get into the trunk. Let's just get into this thing. So there's a little pad under here. Cadillac is very dependent on their little key fob system. I've got these two key fobs here, designed by Bulgari, I believe, but who cares? And anyway, they want you to keep that in your pocket and just use all the pressure pads to open and close the car. Now, when the trunk is open and the top is down, you can see you don't get a ton of storage room. You really, really don't. But, it's enough. You have your infant containment net here, so he'll be happy stuffed in there. Enough room for, a couple days of groceries, maybe even a weekend trip. And, that's fine. That's really all you need. If you got golf clubs, you're going to have to run the top up and you can fit them in there. Otherwise, keep them at the club. Now, if the key goes south, if it stops working, then what you're going to have to do is there's a little rectangular compartment here. When I first saw it, I thought it was a tow hook cover, but it's not. That will actually accommodate a little standard key that pulls out of this thing and will open up the car in case of emergency. So that's the emergency way to get into an XLR. Have a look under the hood. Okay, so here's another area where some of the haters go crazy, and that is that Cadillac had this incredible LS V8 available to them for this car, and instead chose to use, again, the North-South version of the North Star, a 4.6 liter, 320 horsepower, dual overhead cam, VVT, V8. But why not? I mean, it's Cadillac's signature motor. Why not use it? I mean, I understand they could have used the off-the-shelf Chevy thing and gotten more horse and more technology or, whatever it is. But I think that the Cadillac buyers, expect to see a Cadillac motor under the hood. At least they did back in '07. I suppose all that could have changed by now. Anyway, very neat and proper under the hood, very Corvette-esque in its simplicity. You can see they just put a giant big, engine cover over the whole thing to pretty it up, and otherwise everything looks nice. And again, a very advanced motor, aluminum block, aluminum heads, breathes nice with that VVT system. And again, at the time, it was good for an extra 20 horse or so over its SL competitor. So, and I should point out, this car was significantly lighter than its competitors. Not just the SL, but the Jaguar XK, the Lexus SC430. So power to weight gave it pretty good oomph. It would do the quarter mile in under 15 seconds and 0 to 60 in the mid fives. Right within the SL 500's number. So all in all, pretty cool. That has made it to, in this year, it uses a 6-speed hydromatic transmission, actually a transaxle in the back, and it's, pretty nicely balanced for 50-50 weight distribution. Here's one of those pinch pads I'm talking about. So inside, Cadillac did a very, very nice job of cleaning up the Corvette's cheap appearance. You know, that's always been the thing with the Corvette. They're fantastically competitive with all the European cars for half the price. But the way they get to be half the price is they're pretty damn cheap inside, amongst other little bits and pieces. You know, eventually Chevy has remedied that, but in this generation, the Corvettes were, you know, kind of cheesy inside. Cadillac fixed that quite a bit. Everywhere you look, there's this nice soft leather, lovely bunched, real wood with push-button release like the Corvette. You know, this feels a little bit cheesy, this sort of weird, well, I guess it's metal, so it's not bad. It's not plastic, and that's a plus. You see it's got Bose speaker there. You got a neat little compartment here to put, you know, some kind of a 9mm. You get that in there, no problem. And all in all, they did a nice job sort of making this thing more in tune with the price tag that it commanded, which would have been around 80 grand in this year, so real money. You can see these beautiful leather seats, and another place people cry, oh my God, they're not supportive, they're not bolstered, they're not made for high performance driving. Well, no crap, you bought a Cadillac. I mean, if you want to, you know, go rip up a mountain road with, you know, real aplomb, then go buy a Porsche or a Corvette. I mean, this thing also has to double as a boulevard cruiser. You see it's got airbags on the side, nice stuff. In the front, obviously going to keep you very well protected. And of course, you've got power seats with driver memory and all that kind of crap. Let's hop in. All right, to fire it up, foot on the brake. Tap the start stop. The instrument cluster does a nice self-test. See we're driver 1. You see the Bulgari logo. These are all designed by Bulgari, but they still manage to look a bit cheap. Not a big fan of them, but they're fine, and it adds a nice little bit of quiche for future collectability. You've got this wood and leather steering wheel. One thing I'm not a big fan of is the wood meets the leather right at the 10 and 2 where I kind of want to grip it. So I'm not a big fan of the different surfaces. It makes me come down a little bit to be here where the prong interferes with my hand. But anyway, you kind of, it's a minor complaint. You get used to it. Get our seatbelt on. Okay, here you can see a very nicely laid out instrument cluster. You've got your water temp, your oil pressure, your voltmeter, your fuel, your tach, and your speedometer. Exactly what you'd want. Over here you've got your controls for the heads-up display and the dimmer. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's showing 0 miles per hour, which is good. That's correct at the moment. And that works out pretty neat. Once you use a heads-up display, it's kind of fun. You don't want to go away from it. You can angle it up or down to fit your height. So if you're, you know, a little guy like me, you might put it up a little higher. If you're a big tall guy, you're going to put it a little bit lower, and you can center it nicely on the windscreen. It's also dimmable, and all very nice this way. Over here you've got some information stuff you can go through, change your trip odometers, your range, your fuel mileage average, instant, all that kind of thing. Change the different options, blah blah blah. You've got your what do you got? Your windshield wipers there. You've got your cruise control over there, which again is settable for distance between you and the car in front of you. Also gives you a collision warning. Here you can see we've got a heated steering wheel, nice stuff, and other such controls to keep things flowing along. You know, unlike the Benzes and the BMWs and such, Cadillac didn't weigh you down with the tons of you know, all the infotainment switchgear crap. Very, very simple. A lot of stuff is controlled through this in-dash infotainment unit. You get your navigation and such. Works pretty well. You know, once you get it all set and ready to go, it's good stuff. I think you also have XM, which you do. Tom Petty radio. Could get old quick. Little CD slot here intermixed with the real wood. Not in love with where they put the climate control stuff. I wish it was more, you know, sort of towards my face than kind of angled down towards my hips. But anyway, it works out fine. And you can see you got your heated seats and other such controls, all where you know, kind of can get at them. Here you've got kind of a cup holder, that a little bit of a carryover for the Corvette. The mechanism feels a little bit cheap, but it's a nice wood cover, and you can manually shift this Cadillac by putting it over to the left, banging your way through the gears up and down. I wouldn't bother. You also get a little center console there. You get another one back here. Nice place to put some revolvers or smoke grenades. Over here, oh my God, I can't reach. There. Sorry about that. Glove box with the books in there with the 2 fobs, all nice stuff. And I'm going to run the top. Let's do that. We do that with this button here. I'm going to press that forward. There you can see the top starts coming up. Now this thing was designed by the same folks who made the folding hardtop for the SL. So it does have pretty good engineering and pretty good reliability. I've yet to fix one of these tops on one of these cars, which is a pretty good sign. Bangs its way into the windshield panel. Keep your finger on the button. Down goes the power trunk. Nice. You can see while we're back here, that's the rear parking sensor. Oh God, so you'll be able to see that in your rearview mirror. Alright, now when I get out of this thing with the key in my pocket, I have no doubt it's going to beep at me angrily, but we're going to do it anyway. Because what I want you to see is how attractive the roofline is in this car. Much more so, in my opinion, than the SL, which has a more curved roof, which, you know, is fine, but it doesn't look like they put much thought into the styling of the roof. The Cadillac, look at the way that thing's raked back from the rear. It's more sinister even than the Chrysler 300, and I think with the top up it becomes an incredibly handsome design, and they obviously put a lot of thought into that. Yeah, very, very pretty. And of course, being a folding hardtop, it's going to seal really well. It's going to cut down on wind noise more than a soft top would, and all in all work pretty nice. I believe that top is aluminum. Don't hold me to it. So let's go for a spin. Okay, the steering, also a carryover from the Corvette. What do they call that? Magna Steer or something. And, you know, has more effort than you would really think. You know, at all speeds, which, you know, again, is a little bit of a departure for Cadillac, which used to be able to steer with your pinky. But still a nice feeling. A little bit of a growl from that North Star, too. I love the view from the passenger, from the driver's seat. You get this big, long front end, angled fenders. I love these big, chunky rear view mirrors on the side. I think they look great. You know, you got the heads up leading the way. You can tell you're in something kind of cool, and certainly something that's going to age better than the Alante did. The suspension feels very competent. It uses General Motors magnetic ride control, which is a brilliant system. In fact, one that's been robbed by Ferrari and some of the other exotic and high-end makers. What that does is uses these little electromagnetic particles that flow within the struts of fluid, and they can be adjusted, you know, with magnetics to dampen and change their setting like 1,000 times a second. I mean, absolutely incredible. And as a result, it does a fantastic job of keeping the car level, straight, smooth, and very competent, even on the worst of roads. You know, a big departure from the Corvette platforms of years past, where they'd rattle your fillings out. So terrific suspension in this car. Thank Delphi for that one. I'm gonna get a U-turn behind this van and just give it a little hammer. I think it's hot enough now. Pretty good turning radius. All right, there you see pretty great torque out of that North Star. Nice growl out of the pipes. You know, that's as sporty as most guys, certainly in my age bracket, are going to need. You know, and at the same time, it's coupled to a very lovely ride when you just want it to be very lovely. So for the people who are crying that this thing doesn't do what the Corvette is, go buy a Corvette. You know, you don't need a Boulevard Cruiser then. Nobody's going to be stoplight racing this thing. It's not for the drag strip or the track. This is to have a performance edge on a lovely luxury car, and I think it does that just fine. So anyway, this is a 2007 Cadillac XLR Roadster. Very, very attractive car. Triple black, 73,000 miles, immaculate. A very, very nice combo for a machine like this, the way it's set up and how it looks. If you have an interest, give us a call, 239-298-8000, on the web at aenaples.com. Thank you so much for having a look. We really appreciate it. We'll see you with the next one. Take care.